Hello, everybody. Today talking about Dorothy. Do you remember Dorothy? Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and also The Wizard of Oz. Now, Dorothy had all these ideas, and she had all these adventures, and we can go back into what that was all about. But I think possibly what I'm mostly interested about is The Wizard of Oz, because he was this big, huge wizard, right, that everyone was so afraid of, but really he was this little person, this big. So today we're talking about what are things? How do we see them? And are things really as we think they are? And I think that's most appropriate today because we've got so many things happening. Well, Dino's got so many things happening, And I just have to mention about his brother's podcast, but we'll get back into that. So let's get back. Is everything as we see it, or is everything as it seems? Hello, Dino. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing awesome, thank you. I just want to, before we go into the topic for today, I want to say that your episode last week with your brother was awesome. We had so much fun.
I told you he'd like it. And he's like, hey, that was a lot of fun. And it really was a lot of fun. It was just a natural setting. And obviously the little bickering and bantering and
I love that.
We're funny. I mean, I looked at that. I was even laughing. I'm just like, wow, you know what? We're pretty funny. Yeah. So it obviously shows with the viewers. Guys, thank you very much for viewing. Keep the comments rolling in. That helps with future episodes too. But you know what? I'm humbled by the amount of people that have already watched this and are continuing to watch it, which is kind of neat.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's our best episode yet. So it says something about what our viewers want. The real, the raw,
good, clean fun. Yeah. They want the unplugged versions of things, and certainly I don't think the polished version. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's authentic because at the end of the day, we all have the same feelings and we all have the same fears and we all have similar desires, and it's okay to talk about them openly.
Well, that's how people learn, and I think that's what makes it fun. Yeah. So tell me a bit about is everything as it seems?
Is everything as it seems? Are we talking about Dorothy or are we talking about something else? This one, okay. So this one, full disclosure, I have no idea what the topic is. And you're like, okay, so today we're going to talk about the Wizard of Oz. Okay, I remember some flying monkeys and the Wicked Witch of the West, which I was afraid of as a kid, and stuff like that. But I know you're trying to get to something.
So the Wizard of Oz, right? When she eventually discovered the Wizard of Oz, he was this big person. That's what she thought, but he was really a little person. And he was, so what I'm saying is everything the way we see it.
Oh, certainly not, and you know what, that's a good analogy, because the Wizard of Oz turned out to be this little frightened guy behind a curtain. And then when they discovered and then went behind the curtain, he was just like, oh, and I think, the thing I'll take out of it is that a lot of times people may seem not approachable. They may seem too big for us to even matter. They might be intimidating at first glance, but at the end of the day, they're all people. Again, sharing the similar values, hopefully, similar desires, similar likes and fears and hopes. It's something that once you master it, you're able to approach anyone in any setting, and I will say this, in any class. Right. And that kind of fits to how my life went out. I mean, last week we were talking about me going to kindergarten 2 times in a row. As stupid as that sounds, the good part about it, aside from kindergarten being my babysitter the first time, is that I was able to interact with people my age and obviously older than me, as if it were a natural thing. And again, I mean, you don't notice it later on in life, but certainly as a kid, it does seem like one of those inapproachable Wizard of Oz kind of moments. I mean, a first grader never interacts with a fourth grader. Somebody in kindergarten would never talk to somebody in the third grade. I mean, it's that pecking order that we all have as kids.
Yeah.
Until you find out that it didn't really matter, did it? I grew up that way. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm not looking at you by height. I'm not measuring you by age, which is important when you're a kid. And when you get older, I'm not measuring you by your diplomas and your education or your wealth or lack of.
So, sorry, carry on.
No, that's fine. I'm on a roll.
So what I'm saying is that might have made a difference in later on being so successful, because it closed that gap almost, because a lot of people are afraid to approach. How can I approach Dino, because he's higher than me, he's done all these things and I can't do that? Or how can I approach, I don't know, someone else because they're better than me? It's this mental thing we do. Whereas you were taught at an early age that, what, we're all equal, it's all good, it's all, and that might have made a little bit of an impact on your later life, right?
Not might, definitely did. I mean, the truth is, and I don't really say this a lot, but in many meetings with, imposing figures, intimidating figures, truly successful in their own right? Or celebrities and whatever, I can honestly tell you that the meetings that I've had with people like that, it took me a while to remember their face. I mean, if I had a meeting and then an hour later I was out in a public setting, and let's say they were at a grocery store in line with me, I wouldn't know that they were the people that I talked to, because I look past the visual, I look past the exterior, I look past the accolades and all this trumped up stuff that people like to tell you. Yeah. That's why I never liked going into a meeting pre-rehearsed. I never liked to know who I'm going to meet and their background, because for me, it didn't matter. I'd rather learn it on my own. Yes, and what you'll find is these big people, these unapproachable people, turn out to be some of the nicest people you've ever met. It's just their gatekeepers, the front line of defense, are usually the ones that play them up. Oh, you don't know who you're ready to meet. I don't want to hear that. I want to decide for myself. Yes. And that's one of the things that I can honestly trace back to going into kindergarten twice that really helped me with that confidence. And I'm going to give you an example, a little kid's example. So I remember my daughter, we were and I don't talk about her a lot, but we were on my jet. And, obviously we were bouncing back and forth from city to city, and she was so used to it. And one day she looked at me and she goes, "Daddy, the guy that you just talked to on the phone, you're his boss?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but, he works with me." She goes, "Oh, so you're the boss of him?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not really the boss of him. Let's just say I work with him. And I work with a lot of people." So she's like, "You're the boss of everybody." For her, it was how she views life. And I think, I don't know about all little kids. I haven't interrogated them all. But at the same time, I suspect that most people view life through that lens.
Yes.
And as shocking as it was for me to hear that, I had to understand this is a little kid's viewpoint of what she sees, right? And that's what they see. I never saw it that way, but that's me. So environment has a lot to do with that outlook. Right. There's the inner confidence that we all talk about, the belief and the hope and all that. And that is true. But your your environment shapes you as well.
Yes, yes. The environment makes a big difference in the culture as well.
Yeah.
So if you had been brought up in a different culture, maybe that would have been different. And maybe someone in a different town would have sees it differently. So you can get 3 people in a room and experience the same thing, and they'd have 3 different stories.
Right, right. And, and it's the other thing too. It's, what do you do when you're in a group of people? I mean, and my brother said it best. I don't even know if he noticed he said it, but he's like, we're both kind of people that, it doesn't take a long time for us to take charge. That's exactly what he said.
Yes.
That's true. That's true. I can't speak for other people, but, is everybody that way? I mean, I don't know. But,
No.
if you're in a crowd, are you going to conform to the crowd and follow it? Or are you eventually going to take charge and say, I hate saying it this way, but like, this guy doesn't make sense. And this guy's, kind of hovering, and this guy stinks of fear. I need to take over. Not because I want to show off, but because if we're all on a mission, somebody's got to lead.
Right.
And if there's a better leader than me, fine. But it's you sometimes don't find them.
Yes, I've experienced that as well. Working, I found that some people just don't have the courage to lead, or they don't have the courage to actually put their foot out. So I've had experiences where people go, what should I do now? Should I do this? And these are adults, right? Should I do this or should I do that? Do what you think is right. Okay, but I don't want to stand on your toes. I don't want to upset you. Should I do this? And it's like, come on, just get on with it.
It's like trying to gain a coalition before you make something happen for you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You have to be liked. And we talk about this a lot, liked or respected. There's a lot of that psychology. But I'll give you an example, and I'm not going to mention who. But I was helping somebody with their business. They asked me to come in and kind of assess what I saw. It didn't take very long for me to see a few key things. The first one is, and I say this a lot, in a lot of partnerships in business, eventually there's somebody that pretty much does everything. Right. And the other person is what I call a coaster. Yes. They coast on the other person's tails. It's ugly to say it that way, but that is the truth. That's why partnerships are very, very rare, successful ones. And when you find it, cherish it, okay, for all entrepreneurs out there. Yes. But for most of the time, one outlives their usefulness, okay? So anyway, when I went into this company and I looked at it, it's exactly that. It's one was doing the bulk of the work. The other person was the name of the company pretty much. And just kind of like, well, I do this, I do that. But I mean, it doesn't take long for you to figure out who the worker bee is. Yes. Now, this particular partnership was based on a percentage, right? So the partner that was doing everything was making 10% of the gross profits. The partner that wasn't doing anything was making the 90%, claiming I was here first. Okay, we'll give you that. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be part of this, blah, blah, blah. But then you start looking at the model and you look at 90% of the sales are achieved by the guy who's making 10%. Right. So I opened up my mouth and I said, the dynamics here is wrong. The payout is wrong. I'm not saying 50% because obviously you have, internal costs, you have this, you have that, and whatever, stocking, but it's certainly fair to double the incentive. I say that this worker bee, this partner that's making 10% should make 20%, and you should make 80 instead of 90. Well, that doesn't sound right. I mean, we'll talk about this and whatever. I said, look, you guys do what you want to do, but if you're looking for your company to grow, if you're looking to expand past you, right? How are you going to cut in other salespeople if all you're making is 10%? How are you going to expand your message? How are you going to expand your base? I mean, I know what I'm talking about, right? So I threw out a number of 20%. Because I threw out that number of 20%, it worked on them both. It worked on them both. And I'm happy to announce today that the company that I went in to help has agreed to the 20%. So now things are moving forward. Things are moving forward. They're making more money. Okay. The partner that was making 10% now making 20 is much happier.
Yes.
And because of the extra percentage, he's not keeping it all, but he's taking a percentage of that increase to bring in salespeople to incentivize by commission. Salespeople make money. They make commission.
Right.
There's no crime for doing that. I mean, you should be proud of it. And so that's how it's expanding past the single sales, right? That singular vision that everybody gets stuck on. Well, I got to do it because if somebody else does it, they're not going to do it as well as I do. Train them, inspire them, show them, and then they will. They may not be you, but they may surprise you and be something much, much more dynamic than you. You never know.
Right.
And so these are like fearless things that I look at as just a normal day in the park. Other people are just terrified to open up their mouths and say, you know what, I'm doing a lot of the work. I need more money. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're in the same situation.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The best thing that can happen is you come to some compromise where you're enriched better. You feel validated, and you're obviously a happier employer or a happier employee.
Yes.
So there's really no downside to that, but some people are just so terrified to take that step. And again, I think it comes back to your little, I'll call it the little man syndrome, but I mean, usually the littlest people bark the most, the smallest dogs bark the loudest, right? The big dogs don't have to bark. They're just, hey, I'm a big dog. But you'd be surprised what pushovers big dogs are. So don't believe the outward package that you see or the package that was created. Spend some time and find out who the real person is, and you'll find out they're a lot like you and you share a lot of commonalities that maybe you didn't realize.
Yes,
right?
Yes. I love that. But and again, we'll go back to environment. Growing up, it's always like, for me, it was be quiet, sit in a corner, don't talk, be seen and not heard. And you bring that along with you in your life. So sit and don't say a word. And I had to, as I've in my book, you'll see, I realized that I got into the situation where if I didn't speak up, I would have died. Okay, literally, I mean, not literally, but I would have just shriveled up and died in detention, right?
Yeah.
And I needed something drastic to make me realize that if you don't talk up, if you don't say what you want, no one's going to guess what you want. People can't read your mind.
No.
And that's so important to realize that if you don't say it, if you don't ask, you'll never get it. And
That's
like
right.
you said, if you don't ask, you don't know. So, I mean, what's the worst? That in your situation, that man knew that his partner was making all the money. He wasn't going to say, go away.
Right. Look, I've had a lot of people over the years that, this sounds bad, but, sometimes you don't realize who you're paying, how much money you're paying them when you're making a lot of money. Sometimes, unfortunately, you don't notice that. I'm one of those guys, confess, okay, guilty as charged. But here's the thing, after a while, you start looking at the numbers, right? And it freaked me out. I'm like, I'm paying this guy this much money, and what do they do? I'm paying this guy this much money, and they're not doing anything. The last time they did something was, I swear to God, 2 years ago. And I'm still paying them. And here's the funny thing. If it was me receiving money for 2 years and not working, basically, I wouldn't have taken the money. I mean, that's just me. I would have said, you know what, you paid me enough. I'm really not working for you anymore. And I don't know if you noticed that I'm still getting a paycheck, but I don't want any more. thank you for a valuable experience, or it was fun, or I hate you, whatever, just say something, right?
Yes, I agree with you.
But they never said anything until I approached them and I said, you know what? The reason I'm calling you is because, look, I appreciate all the stuff we've done together. It was fun. I hope we still consider each other friends, but I can't keep paying you. And they said, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, as honorable as that was, and as good as I felt after I said it, because, don't leave somebody hanging. They knew. They knew.
Yes,
and I'm thinking to myself, why wouldn't you come to me and have this kind of a meeting? Because it just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And it's not taking advantage of, it's just laying down the parameters. Some people think, well, you're so rich, what do you care? The reason people are rich is because you're supposed to protect your money, right? And there's generosity, and there's help more than monetary help. I think that's much, much more valuable than just throwing some money around to somebody. They're showing them how they can do it themselves. And I'd like to think that, I can point my finger at countless millionaires that have gone through my hands, that have gone through the school of Dino. And I'm not great. I'm just but I'm passionate, and some spark rubbed off, and they're on their way. And I'm very proud of them. But you got to do that stuff on your own. So you got to step up. Yes. And a lot of times people just don't step up. And that's the mystery, I mean, if there was, some people think alcohol does that. Well, let me have a bottle of courage, and then I'll be able to speak my mind. But yeah, you will speak your mind, but then you're going to say some crazy things.
like your brother said.
Like I did. And you won't be focused. I mean, the bottom line is that there's no good way to approach this, okay? But you just have to try it. You have to trust. You have to ask. And you'll be amazed when you ask, when you go forward and you approach somebody fearlessly, you get a lot of stuff that you would have never gotten, right?
Right. So I'll have to go back to the story of when I saw you were doing your PR tour, I think, for your book. By the way, Dino's book is all the description in the box, and there's no box. Remember, all the details are at the bottom of the description box.
What a great plug, Carina. Wow.
And I saw this, and I saw your picture there, because you've got this very stylized picture on your book, right? It's very promotable, and it's...
Is this how we got
yes, on the podcast? Yes.
Okay, because I didn't know, because you went through my PR company.
Yeah, I went through your PR company.
Okay, so what happened?
I was looking for guests for my show, because I needed it to just spice it up a bit. So I went past and I saw this dude with his hair and this look, and I thought, a bit pretentious, I have to admit. Okay.
Because the blowing you a kiss?
Yes.
I'll tell you about that after you finish. That was a fun.
So I went past it, and I looked around, and I kept going back to that picture. It was the weirdest thing. It was like something said to me, you've got to do this.
Pick me.
Yes. And I thought, but I loved the name of your book. And of course, the very Greek, because the Greek and Italians very so I thought, okay. And of course, then I went through your, and that's another story, your PR company. That was another story. And eventually we hit it off. And that's why but what I'm saying is that it was all synchronized. It was just okay, you've got to do this. I was listening to my inner voice, right? I've got to do it. I've got to connect with you. And even though that first episode, you were it was you were very you were very professional.
It was my first podcast.
Was it your first podcast?
Yeah, it was my first podcast. So I'm like, do I have to go out and get headphones? Because that's what podcast people do. I need a microphone. I'm going to get a microphone. What do I do with it? If it's in front of me, it covers my face. I mean, all these
But you did say it though. That was always the fun part. You were always so honest from the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't know
hey,
what I
this
was
is what's
doing.
happening.
Yeah.
And
Hi, Carina. I'm very proud of the book and how it turned out. How are you today? I'm just like, oh, you know, I didn't even know the title, Break Fear, Find Free. I mean, I just thought like, okay, yeah, I broke my addiction. Now I'm free. You know, this is an ongoing thing, obviously, multiple episodes later, and we're co-hosting and we're still talking about fear. But in the beginning, funny thing about the book is they said, well, you need to take professional pictures. So I'm just like, okay. So I go and I go to a photo studio and they're laying out the shots and they're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Well, what do you want to portray? I don't know, you know? And I'm like, I guess, you know, I'm used to sitting in an executive chair. I really don't wear suits anymore, you know, but I wore that suit. And I sat down and he was playing with the camera. He was playing with the camera and he was like taking different light shots and stuff like that. And I didn't know what I was going to do. But as he was doing this, he kept going, smile, smile. Oh, you're not smiling. We got to get you to smile. And so I just decided, I'm just going to blow him a kissy face. I'm just going to blow him a shot. And I do this. And that was it. So after all the shots were taken and he shows them all to me, I look at the kissy face one and I'm like, that's it. He goes, that's the one? I'm like, yeah. He's like, why do you want that one? I'm like, because I want it to be disarming and I want to basically blow a kiss to the world, or you can think it's something else that I'm flipping to the world. But basically like, hey, I'm here. And you know, you can't hold me down. I mean, you cannot hold back a force of nature. That's how I was thinking. So that that photo, I was kind of embarrassed about it. You know, what are people going to think? And, you know, how do I look? And, you know, all these superficial things. But after a while, you get used to it. So, you know, yada, yada, yada. Several podcasts later, I got rid of the headphones. I got rid of the desk. I got rid of the art behind me. I got rid of the microphone. And I just find that this little laptop is the best thing. You know,
Right,
now I can
right.
hear you. Now I don't need a mic, which I would always run into with my chin because I always move like this. So there was a lot to go. But you know what? It's like everything else. Face your fears. I haven't done a podcast, fine. But I'm like, I'm Dino Miliotis. I've talked to thousands of people. I can't talk to this Carina Gorgonzola on this show. I mean, who is she? Who is she?
Exactly.
But as soon as I came on, it's like, okay, we're live. I went, you know, right away into deer in the headlight mode. And I was just like, hi, Carina, how are you? So a lot's changed, but it just goes to show you, I mean, if I could do it, anybody can do it. And that is the truth.
And we've had lots of conversations and it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So thank you for appearing on my podcast, 4 months ago, whatever it is.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It was nothing. No, this was great because think about the podcast. Through the podcast, now we've got a lot of guests lined up for upcoming shows, which I think brings in a tremendous dynamic because we're both very curious in our own ways. And obviously we do it, you know, I think we're both funny. Hopefully everybody else one day finally sees that. But I mean, look, I had my brother on. We've had talks about the foundation. We talked about my my little freak out. We've talked about the book. We've talked about addiction. We talked about so many things, and this is just the beginning.
Yes,
yes. I will soon talk to you about what's coming up with this foundation and the calls that I just got actually today, which will just blow your mind. I mean, this is huge, huge.
Wow,
I'm actually
exciting.
after this show going to meet these people, and this is perfect for this segment. The guy says, well, before you meet you know, the founder and and this is a publicly traded company. This isn't like a little You know, do you want to know their background? I could send you a bio. I could send you this. I'm like, no, I don't want to know anything about them. I don't even want to know their names. I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to do my thing like I always do. Right. And I'm sure their background is very impressive. Show me one person that was ready for a meeting. What kind of background are they going to give you? They're not going to give you a bad one, but they're going to give you one that's polished. They're going to give you one that they want you to see.
Exactly.
But it's not going to tell me what I want to know. I want to know what's in your heart. I want to know if you're a warrior like me. I want to know if you have the same drive and desires as I do, you know, because there's a lot of people that want to do business with me that are, I prefer to just give them some counseling and guidance and, you know, we move on. But it's a very specific person that I look to partner with. And that's somebody that shares a lot of the things that I like, because the older we get, you want business partnerships or relationships to be not only rewarding, but enjoyable. Can you imagine hating the person that you're doing business
No,
with?
you can't do that.
No. So, you know, I've become a little selective in my old age. Not that I'm not still fearless, and not that I don't have an open mind, but I choose who I want to work with based on an immediate feel-good reaction that I have. It's hard to explain. And again, going back, it was probably kindergarten and that belief that there's not necessarily anybody that I should be intimidated by. That belief is carried with me through my entire life. And it's just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger as time goes by. Yeah, I've had the sweaty hands. You know, when I had meetings when I was 19, I'm meeting people, business people that I wanted to do work for, you know, and my hands were always sweating, you know, and I'd have to go to the bathroom and I'd have to get a paper towel, wash them, dry them really quick, and then come out for the quick handshake, because otherwise forget it. You know, who wants to shake a clammy hand? I get butterflies once in a while. And I don't know why, but at the end of the day, when it's showtime, and it's just nobody phases me. Not everybody's going to like doing business with me. Not everybody's going to like my message, and that's okay. That's the other thing you have to remember is, you know, this isn't a coalition to win support. This is just, at the end of the day, just understand that, you know, there are people that won't want to work with you. There's others that will kill to work with you, and that's okay. It's just the way it is.
Yes,
right.
You can't work with everyone anyway.
No.
And the exciting part is that there are those people out there that you can work with, and who knows, you know, what will come out of it.
Yeah, the funny thing is that you already know. I mean, you know, it's nice to say, well, I was shocked, I was surprised. But you kind of know, walking into a meeting with mutual interest, right, in working together. You walk into a meeting, you know the outcome. You know the outcome.
Yes.
And that comes from confidence, and that comes from just understanding that I'm just going to talk to a person. Just like most of the greatest meetings I've ever had that were out of town. And then I would get on the jet and go meet them. Everybody would say, have a great meeting. And I'm like, I'm just going to have a great meal. And honestly, I would look forward to a new restaurant that I can christen, that I could try amazing food with somebody that I'm meeting. And if it turns out that it was a fruitful meeting, great. But worst case scenario, I could say I had some great food. So there were no expectations whatsoever. And it always happened that when you don't have these preconceived notions or these fearful expectations of succeeding or failing, let's say, the outcome's always the same. It's successful, you know, and that's the story of my life. I mean, just, you know, some people have to read a manual to figure out how to start a car. Wait a minute, where's the headlight thing? Where's the, you know, drive or whatever? I get in the car. I haven't read a manual in, I don't know, decades. And I just learn probably not safe, so don't take my advice, but I get in a car and I just learn to drive the car. I mean, pretty much they're all the same, except now they got buttons and whatever, but it's the same thing. So, you know, where some people are cautious and they wait and calculate and study, life's still turning. You know, the world's still turning while you're in on pause, right? I would just, you know, I'm the guy who just closes his eyes and just falls back and just like, I hope somebody catches me. That's what I do. So that's fearless. I think it goes into your Wizard of Oz thing a little bit, that sometimes things aren't what they see, you know, and that's okay.
I have to go back to your expectations.
Yeah.
You find also that when you have those expectations, it just doesn't work out and it messes up. So to be able to say, you know what, I'm going and doing this, I'm going for a great meal, and then whatever happens, happens, is beautiful, I think.
Right. Recently, my uncle gave me some advice. Can I tell you the advice? Because this is just ridiculous. He says, now you're divorced 3 times. You know, Greeks, they don't hold back.
Right.
What are you gonna do? I'm like, I'm enjoying life. You know, I'm fine. I'm good. He's like, what you have to do is you have to go out and meet people, take a walk, and say hi to people. And, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you know, that is an expectation that you're just going to fail. I mean, you know,
yes.
Walk at the park and, hey, notice me. Let's see if somebody can come up and I'm looking for a partner. You know, it just doesn't work. It's the same thing in business. You know what I mean? Will you do business with me? Will you like me? I mean, will you buy from me? It doesn't work. But when you go in and you don't care the outcome, you notice, when was the last time I plugged my book? You just did it now, but when was the last time I did it? And I'm getting more sales not plugging my book than when I was plugging my book. Why? Because it's there. If somebody likes what I have to say, they'll find my book. They know this is a new world that I'm learning. They already know where to Google stuff or whatever they do. So a lot goes into that, these unrealistic expectations in life, that perfect image that people have in their head. You once said, you know, you believe in fairy tales and you believe in the prince, the knight coming in to rescue. And if that's what you believe, that's great. And it's a cute story, especially when you're a little girl. But if you really believe that in life, then you're just going to wait and wait and wait and wait. And you know, there may be a small percentage that will find that. But most of the times it's more like the frog that turns into the prince. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not what you expected, but some of the best things are just that. They're not what you expect.
Yes.
And then you see a transformation. You grow together. You grow. That's the coolest thing.
That's
right?
the best part. Yes.
It's not just you know, I need a soulmate. Just add water, and here you go. Oh, okay. It doesn't work that way. You know.
Right.
I hope people understand that.
Yes, you have to grow together.
Yeah.
And learn together. I just want to go back to the prince. I did say that I was brought up with fairy tales, but the prince doesn't exist, right? The prince has, you have to make your own. Come on, you have to save yourself. You can't expect a prince to save you.
Okay, you said the prince doesn't exist. Now,
well, yes, he does exist.
That's different than you're waiting for somebody to save you, right?
Well, isn't the prince a savior? Because he comes in and he saves the princess, right?
I've seen some princes that are not that at all. But look, it's the prince is what you make in your head, right? If you're looking for a completely polished, perfect person, that person probably doesn't exist, because nobody's perfect and everybody has their faults and imperfections. I mean, I can put on what I think would be the most perfect or as close to perfect facade I can, but you can't sustain that image for very long. Eventually, you will have faults. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. You're going to get angry. Yes, people do get angry. You're going to get discouraged and frustrated and scared. You're going to go through all the emotions that people, even princes, have.
Yes.
But the prince or princess is who you make, right? You know, some people judge it all by looks. Some people judge it all by your heart. Some people a combination of both. Some people do it just because of money. I'm not going to tell you how to find your prince or princess, but I just think that you have to be more open-minded than that rigid image in your head, because what you're going to find in life is that you're going to be disappointed more often than not, right? You have to appreciate all moments in life. You know, yes, I grew up convinced that I wanted to be rich. I loved the parts in my life when I was getting enriched. I hated the parts when I was losing it all, or filing bankruptcy, or, you know, watching a company just get implode right in front of my eyes. Those weren't fun moments, but they're all part of life, you know, and they teach you things, right? So if I was only prepared for just success and I wasn't open to learn from failure, I would be disappointed every single second of every single day, right? Oh, well, you know, I got addicted. I'm perfect. I shouldn't be able to get addicted. I mean, what happened? I'm a failure. You know, I lost a business. I filed bankruptcy. Oh my God, I'm a failure. You know, you go through your bad moments, but then you realize this is part of life. Show me one person that's perfect. Just one.
But who wants perfection anyway? Like, how boring is it to have this perfect two-dimensional, well, like cardboard of a person, right?
But that's what I'm saying. But again, you yourself saying about your prince thing in your head, that's a perfect scenario that you grew up. I don't know if it's environment or, you know, people
reading stories,
or stories, reading stories, but it's in your head. Everybody has an idea of what their perfect person is. And there is no perfect person.
No.
You know what I mean? There's no perfect scenario, even though sometimes we make it look great, you know. There's a lot of times in my life, you know, where people think like I run perfect businesses and I've done, you know, perfect situations and perfect meetings. I equate it to people see me pull a rabbit out of the hat, right? And they love that magic trick. They love seeing the rabbit come out of the hat. Right. But nobody cares about all the time and energy that went into learning how to do that, learning how to pull the rabbit out.
Yes.
They just want to see the damn rabbit. They don't want to know the magic trick, you see? So in their eyes, you know, I go to a meeting, poof, oh my God, he's got, you know, a $20 million deal. Yeah, I get him. I get him a lot. But there's a lot that went into being able to do that. Right. It just doesn't happen magically, right? It all now, it's not knowledge. It's not education. I'm the first to tell you, I'm a college dropout. Okay, so you take that out of the way. It's not coming from a blue chip, blue blood family, because my family was certainly not wealthy. So what is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's confidence. And you learn confidence just as much as anything. You have to learn confidence. And when you have it, it's just this amazing thing, you know. Everybody would feel like the Wizard of Oz, not behind the curtain, but outwardly. That's how you feel. You feel like, wow, you know. Yes, so for me, you know, I'm 5'6". I say this a lot. I'll never be 6 feet tall. I'll never be 6.5 feet tall. That's okay.
That's okay.
But have I ever gone into a meeting, meeting a tall man or woman, and say, I can't do this meeting, they're too tall? No, never, you know, because while the meeting's happening, there is no height, there's no color, there's no gender. Exactly. There's no looks, there's no education. I see through their eyes. I don't even see their face. It's a weird thing. but it's true. It takes me 3-4 times to remember somebody's face in a meeting because I'm so zoned in. It takes me 3-4 times to remember their name because I'm so zoned in. And some people look at that and say, wow, that, isn't that insulting? Maybe it is, but at the same time, it should tell you how focused I am on what I'm doing. People trying to talk to me, tell them this, tell them, I don't even hear that. I don't get distracted. I'm not the guy that's in a group of men, and I'm not trying to be chauvinistic, but I'm a man, so I'm not a guy that's in a business setting, and you see this a lot, a group of men, and then a very pretty girl walks by and they stop talking and they all stop and they look. I would never look. I don't understand why people would do that. I'm in the meeting, I don't care who you are. You could be walking past me with gold bars or diamonds. I'm not going to look at them at that time. I'm looking straight at what I'm focused on. And that's the thing that, that's confidence, in a nutshell.
And that's why you attract all the people, because you can find, you walk down the street, and if you're confident, people suddenly come up to you and start speaking to you and want to share things. Like yesterday, it was quite random. I was walking along the street, and there's someone that I see, this man, like he shuffles around with his little dog, and I was saying, oh, hello. And suddenly he started speaking to me about how he's got a YouTube channel and how he plays music. And he showed me his video, and he gave me, hey, look, yeah, he gave me this, what do they call it? The little things that you play the guitar with. Can't think of the pick. Yes, thank you. Look, this is my business card. Yeah. Why are you giving me this? And people just randomly do that. And you probably find that all the time. Because you're confident and you just attract people, just come up and speak to you all the time.
And it's not, but it's not only that, it's what they say, which is kind of amazing. Now, it's great to have proof. Most of my life, as we talked about last week on the show, has been an isolated life of just business. Yeah, there are people and what I thought were friends. So let's call them more acquaintances. But I never really had that family thing and friends, right, throughout that time. And it's kind of funny because this is the first time that I feel like there's a camera following me. Like my brother watches me. We'll just sit down and have a meal, or I'll be in line to pay for something. And I just ask one question or make one statement to a complete stranger, and they start talking to me as if they know me. And all kinds of weird things. I mean, even some of my brother's friends that he's known for years. And I walk back and I'm like, hey, that was a very nice person. I tell my brother. And I'm like, did you know they did this? He's like, no, they never told me that. It's like a confessional, he says. It's like people tell you everything. I don't ask them to tell me everything, but it's the aura of confidence that I guess you give out that makes people feel it's disarming. It's disarming.
Yes.
Because when you meet a stranger, inherently your guard's up. You want to know, obviously I'm not going to give somebody my social security number or my bank account, but at the same time, you want to feel safe around somebody. You want to feel like you're not going to be judged. You're not going to be looked down at. Right. Or there's some kind of angle to cheat you, which there's a lot of that going on. In today's world, they just want to feel comfortable. And so the person that's confident enough to disarm somebody just with their voice or their eyes is priceless. That's the secret of the success that I know, Carina. I mean, there's no other way to explain. I mean, we could slice it, dice it. We could call it a bunch of stuff. We could do chemistry experiments and split atoms right here on this show. Break fear, find freedom. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Confidence.
Yes. So do you think that it was your kindergarten, double kindergarten stint that gave you that confidence?
I think it had a lot to do with it. I think it had a lot to do with it. Did I feel special even before? I mean, now we're talking about like 3 years old. I think my memory started at 3, but the only, all the memories that I have is of feeling special. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it was my parents kind of nurturing me that way. I don't know if it was something I was just born with, a gift. I don't know. But I know that since my earliest memories, I can't deep dive past that even, and I've tried, have always been that feeling of being special. And I think that double kindergarten thing just kind of took that feeling and just turned it into that feeling on steroids, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it.
But you also nurtured it, because a lot of people, some people wouldn't have nurtured it. Some people would have just, oh, well, they would have, it also depended how you saw it, right? Because you saw it as that. Someone else could have seen it negatively and they wouldn't have had the success that you've had. So it's also, again, about seeing things and perceptions.
There's a lot of people that have kind of this gift. The only example I could give you is these gifted kids who are just geniuses, right? And they're in a regular school, a regular classroom, and then all of a sudden somebody comes to them and says, you're so smart, you're so special, we want to put you in an advanced class. And the sad part is a lot of kids dumb it down. They'll start purposely tanking on tests and getting average or failing grades just because they don't want to stand out.
Yes.
They want to appear normal because of, I guess, peer pressure, but also understand that they're human beings. They're people that need affection, that need friendship. They need that camaraderie, and they're thinking, well, if I get elevated to a class full of just brainiacs, I'm not going to have any friends. Nobody's going to talk to me because they're going to think I'm too smart to talk to. Okay, so it could start like that too, right?
Yes.
I had the advantage of, oh, you went to kindergarten twice, you must be dumb. So I'll talk to you. I don't know what it was, but there was a little bit of that. Why did you go to kindergarten twice? I don't. At that time, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, I don't know. Ask my dad. I didn't know.
Yes.
But I felt dumb the year that I came back, and everybody's like, why aren't you in our class? I actually went to complain. I'm supposed to be in that class. No, because of your age. So I think I was explaining it like, yeah, I went to kindergarten, but I'm younger than you guys, so I have to go again. That's how I think I explained it. And they bought it. They're like, oh. But some of them, no, it's not. You were probably dumb. And I was like, I'm not dumb. It was funny.
Well, you see, you could have bought into that and believed you were dumb. So
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, just depends. Well, very good. So what else do you have to say for our hour that's over already? This was a good one.
It is.
Right?
It is. Well, I'm going to a meeting, which is huge, but I promise that we're going to talk about it. I already know the outcome, but actually, I have to slow down and actually let the meeting happen. But when it does, it's really, really amazing. The most amazing part isn't like the bragging and accolades for me. It's that every viewer on this podcast and everybody that reads the press and stuff that's going to be circulating had a front row seat to see changes and transformation that isn't just to stroke my ego. I can do that myself, but it's the mission of this program, which is that if we can inspire even just one person, it makes this worthwhile. Now, judging from the numbers and the viewers and everything and the support and the comments, we got some diehard followers and we have some diehard fans. And I'm glad that we're always looking for ways to keep it fresh, but honest, and bring in different perspective. And I hope it's helping. I hope it's helping everybody out there.
I think it is. And the exciting part is that we've seen it from the beginning. When you mentioned some time back about the foundation and we just left it, and it's just, we're seeing how it's starting to catch fire. And that's exciting as well.
Yeah,
because it's such a brilliant initiative.
Well, the thing is like some people used to nickname me the Oracle because I see the future. It's not really seeing the future. It's just my brain knows the outcome of what's going to happen way before it happens. So you have to have reality catch up. And then, so it's not like we didn't talk about the foundation. It was just that it needed to catch up with that statement that I made early on. And it's doing that. And it's doing that. But that's the fun thing, is trying to have reality catch up with your vision. You know, I always have to be ahead of reality, and I'm doing it again. But
so I'd say you're really an awesome creator, right? Of reality.
You have to know what you're good at. And if you're good at a lot of things, pick the thing that is needed at the time, right? Like, you know, I can play, as an example, as a baseball player, I could play all positions, right? But maybe this time for this particular venture, I need to be the coach. Or sometimes maybe in this particular venture, I need to be the catcher. You can't do everything. So you have to pick one, and you have to keep your mind open, and you know, to invite all the pieces of the puzzle that just makes it work. It gets more fun as you get older, trust me. A lot of times early on, you just don't understand why things are happening. Now I'm starting to understand it. But yeah, to be continued. So I do want to thank everybody out there. Continue watching us. Keep comments coming in. That kind of gives us material for other shows, which is also helpful. And we'd like to know what you're feeling as well. I'm gonna take your ending, Carina.
Okay,
and
cool. You do
shout
that.
out for Stone Horror Productions for doing the awesome graphics. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, editing, yes.
And
remember the little Dino, right?
And remember
He's
the
still
little
wandering around, yes.
I didn't see him last segment.
Well, remember last segment we were supposed to do it live, and then I messed it up. So
that's right.
we didn't edit it.
For a mess up, we're about to hit 200 views, which is, you know, countless times the average. So the viewership is growing. The message is growing. The interest is there. So don't forget to share with newcomers, ask them to subscribe and all that jazz. And we'll see you next week on Break Fear, Find Freedom. Dino and Carina saying, see you next week.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.